Plugg is one of the biggest subgenres of hip-hop, and its influence is still downplayed like crazy. Originating with a sole group of producers, it's birthed in multiple subgenres itself and received countless mainstream cosigns. There's so much history and drama surrounding it that just isn't talked about, so in this video I'm going to be doing my best to explain the origins, the pioneers, and how Plugg has changed music forever. And no, you're not tripping, I did already make this video. However, as time has gone on, I feel like I could have added way more and just improved the video overall, so here we are. I'll keep the old one up if you want to watch it, but this video will cover pretty much the same stuff and more. So all that out the way, let's get into the full story of Plugg. The roots of Plugg can be found in Atlanta, Georgia. The godfather of the genre, Zaytoven, would dominate the early 2010s, working with the hottest artists at the time such as Gucci Mane, Future, and the Migos. In Zay's production, you could hear some of the earliest elements of Plugg like the 808s, snares, and hi-hats. But at that point in time, most people just considered that style of production standard trap. It wasn't until years later that a group of producers would evolve Zaytoven's sound into something new. StoopidXool was born and raised in Orlando, Florida. His family, which consisted of his mom and two little sisters, grew up in a rough part of the city. His mom would play a variety of different music in the house, so he was exposed to a range of different sounds such as R&B and hip-hop. In high school, he played the drums and learned how to read music. And after being given a keyboard by a friend, he made his first beat and sold it for $25. After this, he realized he could turn music production into an actual career, and from there, music became his full-time job. But Kool wasn't the only producer making Zaytoven-inspired instrumentals, and eventually, he would come across other producers who had a similar sound. In 2013, StoopidXool would found the Plugz group alongside fellow producers ASAT, Tropalot Music, and BeatPluggz. Soon, they would add 3 more producers, MexikoDro, playboicarti, and Corey Lingo. The group would later be renamed to BeatPluggz, and they would begin using the iconic Plugg tag created by BeatPluggz in almost every track they produced. Naturally, people would begin to call the BeatPluggz style of production Plugg music. The BeatPluggz were a huge part of the early SoundCloud era, working with everyone from Kodak Black to Lil Yachty to young bands. One of their earliest collaborators was Diego Money, who was a rapper from Dallas, Texas. Diego caught the attention of Dro, and the two began heavily working together, even releasing a tape, Plugg Lingo, on August 31st, 2015. Through their work on this tape, Diego would also begin working with StoopidXool, which would lead to their own tape, Stupid Ice Volume 1. But out of anyone, it was undeniably the BeatPluggz work with playboicarti that really put the group on the map. Carti would release his first Plugg track, Smash Part 2, on December 2nd, 2014. The track was produced on MexikoDro, and the two would go on to make dozens of classic tracks together, such as Chill Freestyle, Money Counter, and of course, Broke Boy. So it's safe to say that Dro was a huge part of Carti's come up, and on the outside everything seemed great, but behind the scenes, trouble was brewing. You see, there was one small problem. Carti never actually paid Dro for any of the songs he produced, which back then was pretty common for Carti. So while Carti was blowing up off those songs like crazy, Dro didn't see a penny of any of the streams. And eventually, he would officially cut off Carti, pretty much ending an era. But as a result of his Carti placements, Dro would begin to gain attention himself, and he would eventually end up becoming one of the biggest producers of the wave. MexikoDro was born in Georgia, and he grew up in a town called Ellenwood. Like StoopidXool, he grew up in a rough area, but he would learn how to use FL at a very young age. Although, in contrast to Kool, Dro didn't really have that much of a musical background, and he would basically just click stuff until it sounded good. Eventually, Dro became pretty experienced at producing, and he would receive encouragement from his friends and family to take it seriously. But unfortunately, at that point in time, Dro preferred the street life, and at age 17, he was arrested. After being released, Dro decided to take everyone's advice and give music a shot. He would begin uploading beats to YouTube, where they would rack up thousands of views, and he also started producing tracks for local rappers in the area. Eventually, he was recruited by Plugz, and this is where his career would really start to take off. Dro's first major placement was Plugg by Rich the Kid, released November 17, 2015. The song would become a breakout hit for Rich, but not so much for Dro, at least not at first. Apparently, Rich had taken notes from Carti, who ironically was featured on Plugg, and he didn't pay Dro for the beat, nor did he even credit Dro for producing the song. This all resulted in Dro beefing with both Rich and Carti, where in the end, Dro did end up receiving the credit he deserved, but only after he basically threatened them.
Nah, fuck that shit. These niggas is some bitches. I'm telling you, I need to straight up. That shit on God too, man. I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. I ain't got shit to lie about. These niggas some bitches, dawg. Yes, playboicarti is a fucking broke boy. That nigga know he a fucking broke boy with his bitch ass. He can't buy no fucking beats. Everybody know that shit. Zan already know that shit. I'm riding with Zan right now. That bitch ass nigga can't even buy no fucking beats, nigga. That's our favorite rapper. That's our favorite rapper, bro. fuck that nigga, bro, nah, for real. Tell that nigga he don't want no fucking smoke with me. And Rich Kid, that's why I made that little bitch ass nigga move out of Atlanta. And playboicarti move out of Atlanta. Nah, for real, nigga, I did that shit for real, boy. It's all good, bro. Cause when I catch y'all fuck ass nigga, boy, it's over with. Carti, if I catch you, nigga, I'm beating your ass. It's over with. I'm taking your chain. I'm taking all your fucking money. Nigga, if Rich Kid, you ain't gonna come back to Atlanta cause you a little bitch. But when I see your ass somewhere else, I'm taking your shit. You already know the fuck going on now, for real, nigga. This shit for real, bro. This ain't no goddamn regular ass shit. This ain't no, man, fuck them nigga, man.
A year later, Dro would add another hit to his list with the release of Gassed Up by Nebuchadnezzar on August 29, 2016. The song blew up thanks to various memes and vines and is currently certified double platinum. And as I'm sure a lot of people have noticed, the beat for Gassed Up has a near identical melody to Plugg. So what happened is that Dro, being mad that Rich stole his beat, basically decided to take matters into his own hands and screw him over by switching up a few things and making the Gassed Up beat. But instead, he accidentally ended up with 2 hits on the same beat. So in a way, he did end up getting revenge because Gassed Up obviously did way better than Plugg, but still, I know Dro was hella confused when Gassed Up started going viral out of nowhere. Now at this point, Plugg music was everywhere. It seemed like everybody and their mama was hopping on the Plugg beat. Corey Lingo would work extensively with the late Fredo Santana in 2017, and the duo would release 2 projects together, Plugged In and Fredo Kruger 2. We also can't forget about Chinatown and his work with Thousand Man Fani, the most popular track being What's the Worst, which I'm sure everybody agrees is part of the SoundCloud Hall of Fame. Diego Money will continue going strong, releasing legendary tracks like Blue and Green and 2 Glock Shawty, as well as multiple projects with StoopidXool and MexikoDro. But unfortunately, this era would eventually come to an end. MexikoDro, who at this point was pretty much the face of the wave, ended up being arrested in late 2017. And slowly but surely, Plugg was no longer the trendy new sound that everybody wanted to be a part of. Even Carti had already abandoned the Plugg sound, opting to rap on Pierre Bourne production instead. It was all of these events that would lead to people starting to believe that Plugg was dead. I like to call the era after the first Plugg wave the sleeper years of Plugg, because while on the surface it seemed to be dying, there were new faces and groups still making Plugg that were popping up every day. One of the biggest collectives to continue the legacy of the OGs while starting their own wave was Surreal Gang. Surreal Gang is easily one of the most influential producer groups, not just in the Plugg scene, but in the entirety of SoundCloud and the underground as a whole. The group was created by NYC-based producer Rob Surreal, who began his career in 2015. He started out uploading beats to SoundCloud and YouTube, which were a mix of everything from generic trap to Zaytoven. He would also release music of his own, even rapping on his own beats. As time went on, Rob would start to be heavily influenced by the BeatPluggz, and by early 2017, he had switched over to primarily making Plugg instrumentals. He would get a handful of early placements, even producing an early Shoreline Mafia song. But his big break would arrive on May 1st, 2017 with the release of Murder She Wrote by TK. TK found the beat on YouTube, and he would actually FaceTime Rob to ask if it was okay to use. The song would go on to become a hit with over 180 million streams on SoundCloud and Spotify combined. Another legendary Surreal Gang producer who would play a huge role during this period was Eddie Gianni. Gianni was born and raised on the south side of Atlanta in College Park. A friend of his inspired him to start producing and showed him the basics, and from there, he taught himself how to use FL and began making beats as early as 15, although he would only start taking it seriously after graduating high school. He started out exclusively producing for a friend of his, Flex Malik, and through him, he would be introduced to Slime Cito. After meeting Cito and producing a few songs for him, his career would really take off, and he would begin working with a bunch of different artists in the Atlanta underground. Gianni started out making regular Plugg, but he would end up pioneering a different style of Plugg with darker melodies and heavier 808s. But probably the most popular member of Surreal Gang and the most influential is Zangang. Much like his brother Rob, he would start out making Zaytoven influenced beats, eventually transitioning to a more classic Plugg sound, and he would actually end up getting a few collabs with StoopidXool and MexikoDro in 2017. But more than anything, Zangang is probably most known for his contributions to the most popular subgenre of Plugg, Plug and B. Now I don't want to get too into Plug and B because I'm actually planning on making an entire video about it similar to this one, but through Zangang's work with artists like Summers and Corey Lingo and furthering the Plug and B sound, he cemented himself as one of the greatest producers of all time in my opinion, and I would put him on the same level as the BeatPluggz in terms of impact. But of course, you can't really talk about the next wave of Plugg without mentioning the man himself, Cash. Cash, who was raised in Atlanta, started out in 2017 sending beats to random artists. Much like everyone else, he was a fan of the BeatPluggz and would take heavy inspiration from them in the beginning. Eventually, his efforts paid off and he would get his first major placement with Famous Dex on Dex's song Stop It. He would begin working heavily with underground artists like Lil Zelly, Baby Goyard, and Texaco. But it was his songs with Slime Dollars that gave him some of his first attention, and from there, he would become a major name in the underground. I'm sure if you're an active SoundCloud user, you definitely heard his
I really like to use Cash
tag multiple times. Some other important producers and artists during this time period were Da Vinci, Alto SGP, Zaman Shadi, and Cape the Goat, just to name a few. But although all of these artists and producers were keeping Plugg alive in the underground scene, throughout late 2018 to 2020, to the mainstream, the sign was pretty dead, until it received the ultimate cosign from the most unlikely source. In 2020, Drake would release his mixtape Dark Lane demo tapes, and I'm sure everybody was surprised when they clicked on the 12th track on the project, From Florida with Love, and they heard the Plugg tag. The song was produced by MexikoDro, and it turns out it was actually recorded in late 2017, which makes sense since we know how Drake likes to hop on trends. But it was still a surprise that he ended up officially releasing it. But technically, this wasn't Drake's first time hopping on a Plugg type instrumental. I'm Upset, released in 2018 on Drake's Scorpion album, is pretty much a Plugg beat in everything from the classic snares to the drum patterns. It was also produced by working on Dying's Oogie Mane, who's another legendary SoundCloud producer, so shit, I guess Drake really is more tapped in than we think. But only a year later, in 2021, Plugg would be essentially revived in full by the newer SoundCloud wave. Artists like Cash Domi would go viral on TikTok with this song's Reparations and Look in the Mirror, both of which use a more traditional Plugg style. His debut album Epiphany was nearly all Plugg, and the project would do pretty good numbers. Other artists like Jades, Z, and many more that, not gonna lie, I just don't feel like listening right now, would also go viral with their Plugg interpretations. Even Plugg and B would start going up as well, with rappers like Summers and Autumn starting to blow up during this time. In addition to all the newcomers, rappers like Boofpack Mookie and Tony Snow would also have Plugg tracks go viral on TikTok. With all of these songs blowing up, Plugg would slowly start becoming popular again. And there's a lot you can say about the 2021 wave, but we have to give credit where credit is due. They were a huge part of why Plugg gained relevance again. In the present day, although not as big as it once was, Plugg is definitely still alive and well. Dro himself started releasing music pretty consistently, and it's really good in my opinion. StoopidXool and playboicarti just released some solid tapes if you want to check those out. Corey Lingo is continuing to advance the Plugg and B sound alongside newer artists like Lil Sean. There's also prods like Perk 40 and Bullymon, two of my favorite producers at the moment, who have their own wave going on. Their beats include crazy 808s and melodies, but at the core is, again, the OG Plugg sound. All of this, in my opinion, is why Plugg will never truly die. As long as we have artists and producers that are constantly experimenting and changing things up, the sound is only going to become more diverse and widespread. So as you can see, the impact Plugg has had on music is insane. I'm not gonna lie, SoundCloud need to cut all the OG Plugg prods a check for everything they've done for that app, because a playlist ain't cutting it. Side note, that Plugg playlist is actually trash. SoundCloud, if you're watching this, please hit me up, because that intern or whoever you got running it, they are completely clueless. But that about wraps up this video. Thank y'all so much for watching. Like I said in the first one, I really only made this because although I appreciate what SoundCloud tried to do with their doc, they brushed over a lot, so I thought I might as well just fill in the gaps. But thank you to everybody who left feedback on the first one. I tried to make sure I included everything I left out initially. I think I covered everything important, but if there's still something you think I didn't talk about, then feel free to comment. But overall, if you enjoyed, subscribe, leave a like, all that. I really appreciate it. And with that, I'm out.